U.S. population growth hit an 80-year low of 0.6% year-over-year in 2018. The slowdown in growth, an already familiar phenomenon in some of the world's most economically advanced countries, is largely attributable to a declining birth rate. In some of America's cities, the population is not growing at all and is even shrinking. Places like Detroit, Cleveland, and St. Louis are former industry hubs and innovation centers that were hugely prosperous by the middle of the 20th century. But by the 1970s, steel manufacturers, automakers, and other industrial giants, which were already reducing manned labor by implementing automated processes, left the Northeast, Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic for the South and other countries. Those companies, once central to the lives and well-being of these cities, closed their doors, and city residents abandoned city centers for the suburbs or other parts of the country. As symbols of the post-industrial decline in America, these metropolises, known as legacy cities, often share the unfortunate label of Rust Belt City. Today, residents of these cities are more likely to struggle to find work and live in poverty. SNAP recipiency rates in these 5 cities range from 17.3% to over 40%, compared to the national SNAP recipiency rate of 12.6%. Several of these cities are at the heart of the nation's ongoing opioid epidemic. Many of these cities also have higher than average violent crime rates, and some even rank as the most dangerous city in their state. So in today's video, we're going to show you 5 major cities that have lost at least 50% of their populations from their peak in 1950. But before starting the video, I want to request you, we put our best efforts to create our every single video, so please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 5, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At one time, Pittsburgh was known the world over for the steel and glass it seemed to produce in endless supply. Nearly 677,000 residents called Pittsburgh home in 1950. It was the 12th most populous U.S. city at the time. As of 2018, the city's population had fallen to just over 300,000, ranking 66 among U.S. cities. Like most American cities with declining populations, Pittsburgh's decline can be traced largely to the decline of American production and manufacturing that began to take hold in the 1970s and continues to affect the region today. The city's economic decline occurred across many industries, but the death of its once mighty steel industry was at the heart of the economic decline and population loss in Steel City. In the 1970s and 1980s, Pittsburgh's biggest steel employer laid off tens of thousands of workers. From 1970 to 1990, the city lost over 150,000 residents. Today, the level of financial distress in the city reflects in part the economic consequences of a shrinking population. Approximately 22% of people live in poverty in Pittsburgh, and nearly 12% of households earn extremely low incomes. Each percentage is well above the corresponding national rate. Number 4, Buffalo, New York. Buffalo is the second largest city in New York State, with the current population of 256,304. The decline of many of the nation's legacy cities can be traced to a severe but relatively gradual evaporation of an important industry, and this is also the case in Buffalo, but to an extent. The city suffered as a result of developments in transportation, which resulted in the city losing its standing as a trade route hub. Buffalo was as a major metropolis by the early 20th century due to its location at the top of the Erie Canal, which served as a hub for trade moving from the east to the west via the canal. As roadways and the interstate systems were developed, trucking became a more optimal means of shipping across the country, and barge transportation on the canal dried up. This played a key role in catalyzing the loss of over half of the city's population as the city's rank declined from the nation's 15th most populous city in 1950 to the 83rd most populous today. In the year 1950, the total population of Buffalo was more than 600,000, which is now only 250,000. The city, though, may be staging a comeback, as young workers have moved to the city. However, the city still has a 30.9% poverty rate, and nearly 35% of households rely on SNAP benefits, more than double the 12.6% share of households nationwide. Buffalo has undergone a remarkable transformation in recent years, from a redeveloped waterfront and revitalized neighborhoods to a burgeoning craft beer scene and over $1 billion in new investment. Number 3. Cleveland, Ohio. Welcome to Cleveland, Ohio, a city with a proud industrial heritage, a vibrant art scene, and a friendly community spirit. From the iconic Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the historic neighborhoods like Ohio City, Cleveland offers residents a unique blend of opportunities and experiences. Of the 64 large U.S. cities with 300,000 people or more, only 5, including Cleveland, have a population that is now smaller than even just 5 years ago. Since 2012, Cleveland's population declined by 2.3%, even as the U.S. population grew by 3.8% over the same period. The outmigration began long ago, however, since 1950, the decade in which Cleveland's population peaked at 914,808. Demographic shifts like outmigration tend to exacerbate adverse socioeconomic conditions, which themselves often accelerate population decline. Like other cities with shrinking populations, Cleveland's violent crime rate of 1,557 incidents for every 100,000 people is among the highest in the country. The rate is 5 times higher than it is statewide. Ohio's violent crime rate is 298 incidents per 100,000. Crime is often concentrated in lower-income areas, and Cleveland is one of the poorest cities in the country. Cleveland's 35.2% poverty rate is more than double the poverty rates of 14.9% statewide and 14.6% nationwide. Number 2. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, the largest city in the state of Michigan, was settled in 1701 by French colonists. It is the first European settlement above tidewater in North America. Founded as a New France fur trading post, it began to expand during the 19th century with U.S. settlement around the Great Lakes. By 1920, based on the booming auto industry and immigration, it became a world-class industrial powerhouse and the 4th largest city in the United States. It held that standing through the mid-20th century. Detroit grew dramatically over the first 5 decades of the 20th century, from a population of 285,704 in 1900 to 1.85 million in 1950, when it became the 5th largest city in the country. That decade, there were only 5 U.S. cities with more than 1 million residents. Just as the growth of heavy industry helped Detroit become the prospering automobile manufacturing capital of the world, rapid declines in the sector led to heavy job losses, mass exodus of its population, and the urban decay the city is currently known for. As is generally the case in the 5 cities that have lost half or more of their populations since 1950, Detroit struggles with high violent crime and poverty rates. Detroit's violent crime rate was the highest of any city in Michigan and more than quadruple the statewide violent crime rate of 450 incidents per 100,000 people in 2018. Nearly 40% of the population lives in poverty, the highest poverty rate of any city with a population of at least 100,000. Long known as the automobile capital of the world, Detroit is also famous for its distinctive Motown music sound from the 1960s. Detroit is home to a rich mix of people from various ethnic backgrounds, including citizens of Italian, English, German, Polish, Irish, Mexican, Middle Eastern, African, and Greek descent. Number 1. St. Louis, Missouri. With a population of 856,796, St. Louis was the 8th largest city in the country in 1950. The city's population has steadily declined since then to just over 300,000 in 2018, ranking as only the 64th largest city in the United States. Like other cities with long-term population declines, adverse socioeconomic conditions are prevalent in parts of St. Louis. East St. Louis, for example, is far and away the most dangerous city in Illinois and one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. Also, 1 in 4 people living in St. Louis live in poverty, well above the national poverty rate of 14.6%. While St. Louis may not be booming, certain aspects of the city do show signs of renewed prosperity. Relatively high immigration from Asia has helped offset some of the outmigration. The city's sports teams, the Cardinals and the Blues, do very well, which can help support population and economic growth. And plenty of universities and large companies still operate and thrive in the city. The cities we know now were once known to be America's biggest and grandest cities, and today even a dog cannot understand them. That is why it is said that as it is now, no one knows how it will be in the times to come. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.